Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about great training tool, Mantis X3. I don't think I have to explain to anybody who owns guns, who shoots, who goes to compete, who shoots for sports, who shoots for hunting, who shoots for just pleasure as a hobby, how important dry fire shooting is. But at the same time, I don't have to explain to anybody, and I bet all of you will agree with me, how boring dry fire can be. I mean, how many times you go and do this in front of the wall, in front of the target or something, before you get bored to death, right? It gets old quick. But there is something that can break that boredom of dry fire shooting. And that thing is Mantis X3. That little electronic device will completely change your dry fire shooting experience. I guarantee that. It changed mine. And I thought this little thing is just a gimmick and won't do anything for me. So I wasn't really looking forward to buying it, and finally I got it from Mantis to try it out. They didn't pay me to do this review. They didn't ask me to do a positive review. They asked me to do an honest review. Therefore, I'll talk about pros and cons of this little thing, because there are cons. It's not only pros, there is some things that I would like them to improve or change or I don't know, just be different. So let's start with this. How does it work? Well, this is an electronic device that has built-in gyroscope, I believe, and it measures and tracks movement of your gun 200 milliseconds prior to a trigger break. So it's focused on the very last moment before you trigger break, and it allows you to see what the gun was doing right when you were pulling that trigger, which for me is a great information, great valuable data that I can analyze for my training, to better myself. This thing, first pro is how easy it is to use this thing. You just put on the gun, calibrate in your app. By the way, let's talk about the app right now. Let's talk about Mantis app. It's available both for Apple devices and Android. This is the first screen. You connect to your device via Bluetooth, and here is the first screen. On top, as you can see, is my progress in basic combat course. I already completed marksmanship courses, and now I'm working on my combat courses. And each day I have new assignment I have to do to complete each of the steps that are shown here on top. The next down is daily challenge, and this is something that is really useful for me. You can just open the app if you have no ideas for training that day. Just open the app and go with the random daily challenge that Mantis will suggest for you. Down the screen you have all kinds of different drills that you can choose from, and then the history of your training. And then at the very bottom you have history of your training, groups that you train with, and settings. Let's go to settings first. Those are very detailed settings. You can choose between handgun and a rifle. Here you can choose the specific handgun. Just click on it and you have long list of different handguns that you can choose from, and this way you can track the training for a specific handgun. And as we know, different handguns have different trigger pulls, different grips, and all that stuff that will affect your training and affect your score, ability to shoot on that gun. So this little function will allow you to track training and your progress for a specific handgun. Then you can choose, if you're right or left-handed, you can choose which training you're doing, if it's live fire, if it's dry fire, or others like CO2 training or training with a SIRT gun. Then the mounting position of your Mantis. Is it forward facing or backward facing? Is it mounted on the bottom, top, or left or right of your handgun? And then you have all the other little adjustments like sounds and all that other stuff. The next screen is groups. Groups allow you to connect with other people, other friends who have Mantis devices, and this way you can track their progress, you can track their training, and they can track you, challenge you, and do all kinds of stuff within the app. So that's very helpful for me. And the most important part of the whole Mantis system is the history right there. Click on that and it shows you everything, your shots, and each of your trainings is recorded here. And in each of those trainings you can go into details. Let's go to something right here. 50 shots, open training. My average score was 96.9. The first screen in history, in my opinion, is not the best choice. Mantis decide to use the pie chart, spider chart, whatever you call it. And in my opinion, this thing is stuck in the 90s. Because not necessarily if the gun is showing going down to the left, it means that you're flinching or that you're using too little or too much trigger finger. I disagree with this chart. However, if you look at it, it can give you little pointers. Don't take it as 100% what was wrong with your shot, but you can have a little feedback and little pointers that you can consider. Don't take it as 100% truth, but you can consider it in your training. The next screen over is where it's all at. The top line here, the top line here shows you how you're performing on your score, on your shots. And this line should be as flat as possible. It shows you every single score, and as you can tell, mine in this training were going up and down, were not very consistent. I was going between 94, 95 to a 98. There is one that is really low, below 90s. So you can track how consistent you are with your scores. And the bottom part shows you, the yellow part is a trigger press movement, and the bottom blue part is a hold movement, just few milliseconds before the trigger break. And those two lines, those two colors should be as close to each other as possible. And you can tell that in my training I have some that are really long, and that's something I need to work on, and that's my feedback. Of course you can make little notes for the training and stuff like that. And on the next screen you can see each shot and the movement of your gun during that shot. So the blue line is the movement right before the trigger break. The yellow line is the movement of your gun during trigger break, and the red is right after break. This whole movement, all three of them, is 200 milliseconds. So it's really just before the trigger break, but it shows you exactly what your gun is doing, and you can track it. You can work on your skills using this graph. For me it's very helpful. So that's the app. Mantis X3 comes in this little handy case. Inside you can find a USB cable, a little sticker, and Mantis X3 itself. As you can see, it's pretty small. You can mount it both ways on your gun, facing forward or facing backwards, depending on your gun size and shape. You can also mount it on your magazine base, and that allows you to use this thing with a holster that doesn't have space for a light or for Mantis itself. Okay, you saw the app. Now let's talk about Mantis device itself. So you just attach it to the gun. You can mount it to the bottom of your railing here. However, if you don't have a rail mount on your gun, accessory mount on your gun, you can mount Mantis to the base plate of your magazine using either their attachment that they're selling, or you can make attachment yourself from just a little piece of railing that you can buy on Amazon or eBay, and just stick that to your base of your magazine with double-sided plate, and there you go. You have a mount for your Mantis somewhere else other than the bottom of the barrel, right? You can mount it also on your rifle. So this little thing will work with any caliber and any gun that is in your inventory, in your collection, or whatever you use. This thing will work with it. So that's awesome. You just turn it on, connect it to the app, and that's it. Go and shoot. Another pro of this thing is that you can use it both with dry fire training and live fire training, because we all know that sometimes the live fire is a little different than dry fire training. You know, you can be a very professional with dry fire, then you go to the range and that flinching comes back. Well, this little thing will detect that and will tell you what to do, give you all the necessary data that you can analyze and better yourself. Another pro is a battery life. I mean, this thing came pre-charged. I used it every day for about a month and a half, and it lasted for a month and a half before my first charge. Then I charged it, and it's been another almost month and a half now, almost 2 months, and it's still going on the same charge. And I'm doing about 50 to 150 shots a day or every other day, depending on the week when that I'm training. So battery life is pretty good. However, at the same time, I have to say, I wish Mantis would include some kind of battery life indicator either on the app or some kind of indicator here on the Mantis, because you can be training and then boom, it's dead. It doesn't tell you that there is 20%, 60%, whatever percentage of battery life left. So that's, in my opinion, a con, a negative. Another thing that is a con, in my opinion, is this thing is not designed for newbies. If you're brand new to a shooting world, you don't know what you're doing, and you want to train, this is not the first device you should buy, or this is not your primary training tool, because it gives you data. However, you need to have some kind of knowledge of guns, of shooting, to be able to analyze that data. Why do I say that? Because Mantis is using this spider chart or pie chart, whatever, to tell you, okay, your gun went, down left, and that means according to that pie chart, which is stuck back in the 90s, in my opinion, that you're using, too little trigger finger or too much trigger finger, or you're flinching. Sometimes, yes, that can be the cause of whatever gun movement, but not always. And to be able to catch that, you have to have the knowledge of the shooting, or you have to have an instructor to tell you what you're doing wrong, and then you can supplement that training with Mantis and Mantis data. So be aware. In my opinion, this is not for newbies, okay? Another thing, Mantis is not point of impact based tool. So with that being said, it can show you that your trigger pull is great, that you're getting scores of 90, 98, whatever, 95, great shots. However, if you don't know how to acquire picture sight, if you don't know how to aim, you will still miss at the range. So Mantis is selling now, came up with different tools for point of impact, which is their Laser Academy and I think Blackbeard for ARs, and those are great tools, a little different than Mantis. So you have to remember, Mantis is not point of impact based tool. With that being said, there is another pro for Mantis, which is you don't need a target for Mantis. You don't need to print anything. You don't need to have good lighting to detect the laser or whatever. No, Mantis doesn't send any lasers. Doesn't track any targets. You just put a target if you want. Print something, put it on the wall. If don't, you can just pick a piece of furniture in your house. You can pick a piece of furniture in your room, a picture, electric outlet, and that being your target, and you can start practicing with that. You can even practice with your eyes closed, because Mantis does not care about point of impact or any kind of lasers and stuff like that. So in my opinion, that makes it easy to use, less things to worry about, because you just put on the gun and start dry firing or start shooting, and that's it. Another huge pro, in my opinion, is that this little thing breaks the boredom of dry fire. I mean, I already mentioned that. How often, you get, okay, I have to do the dry firing today. Another training, okay, bang, bang, okay, I'm bored, right? And then after a couple times of boring training, you will not go back to a training. You will just stop doing dry fire overall. Mantis will not only give you data, but it will give you ideas for training. It will tell you what to do. It will give you detailed instructions for certain training, for certain drills. So that's really, really cool. I mean, if you have no idea what to do that day and you still want to train, just open the app, and right on top it will tell you the daily choice for your training. There will be just random drill that you can go with, and that's it. You're done. Your training is done. You have something to do. It changes daily. There's a lot of drills in Mantis app, so it takes a long time before you start repeating them. So that's pretty cool. Also, Mantis has a great customer service. Whenever you have a question, just shoot them an email. So in Mantis app, you have marksmanship training and a combat training. Each of those consists of 3 steps, and if you complete any of those steps, Mantis will send you a little reward. My basic marksmanship badge, my advanced, and my elite. I know it's not much, but it's kind of cool. It kind of keeps you motivated. You want to train, you want to achieve the next step. So Mantis breaks that boredom and keeps you motivated to train, which is awesome. Well, let's talk about another con of this little thing, which is sometimes during the training, Mantis will register a trigger reset as a shot fired. And I don't like that. I like to include a trigger reset in my dry fire trainings. Unfortunately, with Mantis, I have to be aware of that. So let's say I'm doing a drill of 10 shots. 5 of them most likely will be trigger resets. However, you can delete them from the training, so it won't affect your data or won't affect your overall score. But you have to remember that most of the times, actually, Mantis will register trigger reset as a shot fired. Well, maybe they'll work on it, maybe they work on sensitivity. I don't know if it's even possible, but that's something that in my opinion, they should work on. Another con that I found out is that you are able, after some time, cheat on this thing. Which, if you're, let's say, not motivated and you just want to get the score to get to another level of training or whatever, you can manipulate your gun in a way that Mantis will assume that you did a good score, that you did a good shot, and that can lead to developing bad habits. So you have to be aware of that there is possibility when you're good enough to start cheating on Mantis app and cheating this little tool. Again, if you're aware of it, and if you're not a cheater, if you want to train for real, it's not a big deal. However, in my opinion, it's a con. Alright, so let's talk about pros and cons again. Let's start with cons. It's not for newbies. It's not point of impact type of device. There is no battery life indicator. You are able to cheat, which can create bad habits. And the biggest con, in my opinion, which is Mantis registering trigger reset as a shot fired. Okay, don't let those cons overshadow the pros, which are it's easy to use. You don't need to print target or anything like that. You just put the device on the gun, open the app, and you are training already. It has a long battery life. It provides very detailed data of your training. It breaks down the boredom of the training. It can be used both in dry fire and live fire, and it can be used with any gun, any caliber, both handguns and long rifles, which is great in my opinion. One device for all of them. So, do I recommend this thing or not? I absolutely do. Right now it costs about $169, and it's money well spent, especially with the ammo prices still being kind of up. You can train at home. Basically, once you buy it, there is no additional cost of training, and it's fun to use and it's easy to use. So yes, I highly recommend it. It improved my shooting, my gun handling. So yeah, it does work. It's way worth that $169, and I highly recommend it. I gave it the pros, I gave it the cons. You might not agree with everything that I said. It is what it is, but from my perspective, this device is great and I highly recommend it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, any questions, you can ask in the comments, or you can ask Mantis themselves. I'll give you a link to their website under the video, and you can send them an email. They have great customer support. They have great customer service, so they will be able to answer your questions. And that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.